Can I give a thesis as to why I think the price is absolutely running and why it's running to the extent that I think it is?
Please do.
So obviously this is probably wrong because I never am right. But the thought process that I kind of have behind this is, and Amit said this at the close earlier today, the retail investors are kind of refusing to sell their shares, right? And so that with that, you kind of have the scarcity. It's kind of like Bitcoin, right? Now that you have so many institutions coming into the market, there's so few supply. Obviously, in order to entice people to sell, you're going to need to raise the price. So I think one of the things is happening. You're starting to get that pendulum swing where institutions aren't just buying to get the price to go up, but if you think about the ultimate goal of what institutions are really trying to do, they're trying to get to a place where they can influence the company to the biggest of their ability. They're trying to get market share of that. That's why you see Vanguard, BlackRock, et cetera, get 9-10% positions in some of these public companies, and then they get positions on the board. They can help direct, because at the end of the day, if you have enough shareholders like BlackRock, et cetera, you have to meet with them. Your directors have to meet with them to figure out what they can tell to their sell side analysts, et cetera, in terms of expectations. So my thought process is they're basically trying to get to a place where they get the price to a point where they can start to get retail investors to sell out, get as much shares and institutional ownership as they can. And then eventually something's going to happen, right? The pendulum's going to start to swing back to normal. The price is going to drop out. The retail investors are going to run for the hills because they're afraid of locking in their gains. And then only then will the institutional investors be able to pick up more even at a decent price. So I think what's going to end up happening is at the end of the day, they recognize that they're not holding this for, let's just say, a short-term profit. BlackRock, Vanguard, et cetera, are going to be owning this company until it's $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, potentially even $2 trillion company within the next 15 to 20 years. So who cares if they're paying for $150 billion, $170 billion market valuation? Because at the end of the day, they're still going to realize a 10x potentially in this particular company over the course of the next 15 to 20 years. And that's the way that I think a lot of these larger institutions are thinking about it. You'll have some of these hedge funds that are trying to get in, out, and sideways. But a lot of the times they might get lucky to get 1 to 2% ownership versus somebody like a BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Those guys are owning 5-10% chunks of the company. Those guys are really trying to get to a place where they can try to direct and get people to feed into specific things. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be a problem with Palantir, in my opinion, because at least at the moment, Teal, Carp, et cetera, have those Class F shares. And so it doesn't really matter what the fuck a BlackRock or anybody wants them to do, because at the end of the day, they have the final say. But I think you see this a lot and more often than you think if you start to recognize how companies start chirping up the same thing. They always talk about ESG at the same time. You know, back in 2020, 2021, everyone started chirping about DE&I and renewables and this, that, and the other. It's like not everybody, you know, is coming up with the same brilliant idea at the same time. They're either using the same consultants or have the same shareholders. So you have to recognize that that's where some of this chirping comes into. But I think that that's currently why I think the price is skyrocketing to where it is.
I think it's a very fair thesis. A lot of retail is not selling. I know some retail is taking profits, and that's obviously, you know, everyone deserves to at this point. But a lot of retail also has kept a base position that is not leaving. And if it was leaving, I don't think we would see the stock going this high. We're seeing the institutional volumes go up. We know that the institutional ownership went from 44 to 55%. S&P 500 was a big deal. QQQ looks like it's a lock-in for December 13th. There's an argument that, yeah, if you want to be part of Palantir, you're going to have to pay up. And that might not stop.
Well, it seems many people are doing something like how I'm doing, like having a core position that is considered like the no-touch position, and a smaller position that is like, okay, here I can be more active, have fun, buying the dip, selling the hype, stuff like that. And I made the question about... hey, what will make you sell? And like I received so many reply like, oh, I'm not ever thinking of selling until we reach like 100, we reach 1 trillion, stuff like that. So there is there is more propension to say, okay, I can wait, rather than I'm scared of I need to take the money out. I personally believe there is a simple dynamic. Like, do you remember it was a stream or here at Palantir Weekly that we just mentioned? Look, the demand for AI is explosive. There are not many stocks in the S&P 500 that can give you a pure AI software exposure. So guess what? You get all the money flows into your stock. You combine that with a very nice narrative, people that are making big gains that I think, oh, yes, it is up a lot, but we know that the true potential is actually way bigger. That's essentially what you get. And don't forget that even if now people are recognizing, oh, Palantir is very expensive, like when you see the valuation maps on like the revenue growth or the free cash flow margin combined with like the EV sales, so the rule of 40 chart, like now Palantir is like a complete outlier. So on a theory, that is like the perfect short candidate because it's like a complete outlier compared with the industry. But at the same time, short sellers must be as excited as scared because they know that in the recent past, every time that they tried to go against these the highly valued stocks with a lot of flows coming onto the stock, they just hurt themselves. Like every time you had bears pretending to be smart. Oh, Nvidia, 50 PE. Oh, that's crazy. Now I'll short it. But boom, they got smashed. So when even short sellers are scared to do their job, you just have a lot of money piling into the stock. Psychologically, people start thinking, oh, I'm up to 100%, but I want 2,000%. And then boom, this is what you get.
Damn, Narni, it's almost as if you knew a person who shorted Nvidia due to a PE a while ago. Amit, actually, could you quickly look at the Robinhood net flows for Palantir? Because look, everyone here is a greater market wizard than me. I typically ignore price action charts, anything outside of intrinsic valuation. However, if I had to guess, retail is probably a net outflow. I'm pretty like if I had to guess, that's what
I would have
say.
said the net buyer.
It's interesting. So yesterday the stock fell, right? Or it was kind of flat yesterday. I mean, it's kind of 50-50. Right. December 4th, there was that red candle. December 3rd, there was that green candle.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, basically, I would say we're probably gonna see net outflows at these levels, while institutionals are racing, being late to the party. And a lot of people make fun of like, yeah, institutions are always late. They don't get it. They're racing when the stock price is up. But I think that's also evident if you look at the institutional ownership chart. I think they were at 14% going public, and now there's like 65 or whatever you showed on the chart earlier. In any case, that is more or less by design. You have to imagine being a portfolio manager. How do you justify to your clients like, yeah, we're owning this unprofitable tech stock. It's highly volatile. It has a ton of negative media attention, but we see the bigger picture. We see where this is going. Like, how do you make that case in 2021 to your clients? Like, you have a duty to like protect their money and grow their capital. How are you going to make such a bet? I think it makes sense that they are late to the party because now Palantir is obviously becoming very proven. They are very healthy, throw off tons of cash. They are ever expanding across many TAMs, playing a bigger role in US government. Like they're doing all of these things. And now they can feel like justified in saying, yeah, we own Palantir. So even though they get in like while the party is over in the short term, I still think Palantir has a big runway into the future. But for now, they are pretty late to the party. But yeah, I think that's not like them being stupid. I just think that it's very hard to justify to the clients. I think if you watched The Big Short, you have this moment where Michael Burry essentially does this bet while shorting the housing market, and all of his investors want to pull out. So he just locks it because, no, you guys are wrong. I am right. I am locking away your money. Most people don't go and do that. Like most fund managers can like, no, I'm locking your money. I am investing in Palantir. No, it makes absolute sense that they are always late because they can't justify getting into an unprofitable tech that is highly volatile, a lot of negative media. So that makes sense. And yeah, they will probably keep racing. I don't know where this ends up. I still think that retail will be smarter, and there will probably be net outflows from retail the coming periods, and probably retail will pick up the dip if there is one. So yeah, we'll see. I just think that's like explaining what's happening to the stock price. Now, of course, we have a lot of institutional ownership increases due to the S&P 500 inclusion. We'll see what happens if they are included in the Nasdaq as well. When's that supposed to be announced? Like in a couple of
December
days,
13th.
right?
December 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week. So there's a lot of things that is pushing the stock price higher, in addition to a lot of positive catalysts. But yeah, I think it's short-lived. We'll
I was
see.
gonna say two things real quick, then Arnie. One thing also, if you listen to Michael Burry after his big short position, he made his investors $1 billion, and they never spoke to him again. If you listen to his interview, he says, "I made them $1 billion, and I sent them 20 million here, 30 million there." And the investors never talked to him again. They pulled all their money away. And this guy made them $1 billion, and they wanted nothing to do with him, right? Because of how he did the trade. So you are definitely correct that it is very difficult for fund managers to justify getting Palantir at $10. But at 75, it seems like a no-brainer now that the whole world is bought in. The other thing I was going to say to Matt's thesis is there are Tesla shareholders that have not sold since 2013, and they're retail guys, right? And if that's the world Palantir is going into, I know there's 2 billion shares outstanding, but those shares are locked up for a lifetime, right? And or at least a very long time, well into the future. And if that's the case, that's something we got to remember. Like if people genuinely believe, and this is why Alex Karp is so important. If you believe in the vision, that's why Elon is so important. You believe in that leader, you're able to deal with the 50, 60% drawdowns and still potentially be in the green because you got in so early, then those shares are not leaving. And if those shares are not leaving, to Matt's point, a lot of big guys are going to have to buy them at a higher price.